people. So, last month, a video of me went viral on TikTok and received 1 million views. This is the video. This video was posted by an account that showcases the profile of inspirational Indonesian figures, and some names that have been highlighted, other than my own, were my wonderful friend Kak Sari Wijaya, who is currently conducting research at Harvard Medical School, and also my friend Fatia Fairuza, who is currently interning at the UN, also a human rights activist finishing her master's degree in Colombia. So, in early October, it was my turn. This was the video. As you can see, it's a photo of me in my Harvard sweater. And there's also my profile, my birthday, when and where I was born, my parents' education background. There was also my undergraduate degree program. So it had everything. It also has over 600 comments. And the top one, with over 5,000 likes, said something like this. Kebanyakan emang tergantung background keluarganya sih. Or, in English, it roughly translates to, it's because of her parents. Here's the thing. The comments are not wrong. If I were to give credit to everything that I have achieved in my life so far, I would easily say that 90% of them is due to my parents. So, the reason for this is because they assume I have this privilege, right? For being raised in a household by a family who really valued their own education, by parents who completed their PhD in Japan. But let me just tell you that out of everything, something that I'm extremely, extremely grateful for is the fact that I have a mother who looks just like me, who's dressed like me, who've lived my life. And so because of her, seeing this amazing woman who has an engineering degree graduating from Japan, it was pretty uncommon for someone who came from her time. But here's a little bit of context to help you understand a little bit better why I'm so privileged to have a mother like her. Although yes, my mother belongs to the 75% of the population in Indonesia who is a Muslim hijabi woman, she also belongs to the very small percentage of women in STEM, in management position and higher. In 2018, only 12% of STEM graduates in Indonesia were women. And in 2019, Indonesia came as worst for a country in ASEAN with female representation in management. We came only at 17.6%, lower than our Southeast Asia neighbors such as Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand. Some barriers that have been known to prevent Indonesian women to pursue their goals are mainly family-related barriers, such as lack of support from parents or from spouse. Family duty is another one. There's also organizational-related constraints, such as discrimination and masculine culture. In my 12 years of being raised in Indonesia, I also have unfortunately been at the receiving end of such a culture. I was 16 at the time. I was in high school. This is me in high school. And I was on my way to an academic decathlon competition. I was in my car with my team members and also a male teacher. I was already a senior at the time, and so I remember sharing with my teacher my aspirations for my future. I told him I wanted to study abroad in Japan. I told him I also want to earn my master's. I told him I want to do my PhD. I want it all. And after listening to my dreams, my teacher's response is something that I will forever remember. He said, "What's the point if you're just going to end up in the kitchen?" If I had been raised by anyone else than my parents, I could have believed him. As a teacher, his words were extremely powerful, and he could have seriously harmed not just my dream, but also my team members' dream, who were all just teenage girls with huge goals in the future. Now, thankfully, we weren't chosen to represent our school to let him get away with such a comment. So it was safe to say that he was quite apologetic after we shared to him a piece of our collective minds. But the reason why I wasn't fully aware that there were this division, that women and men were regarded quite differently, not just in Indonesia, but everywhere around the world, is because of how I was raised. I was detached from this reality because growing up, I genuinely believe that I was raised with parents who practiced equity at home. So my brothers and I, we were all treated equally, and despite the busy schedules that my parents had, they were also parents first and foremost when they are home, and executive second. They were our educators, so we will all sit down together to do homework. We will study together when exam weeks roll around. We will also do flashcards together and tackle problems together. And so being raised equally like this didn't make me think that we were competing with one another. Aside from how we were raised by our parents, I also saw my parents at home as a unit. Despite both being engineers in a heavy industry sector, I didn't see them competing with one another. They were a team. They saw each other as motivation, so they weren't rivals. And so seeing this as my figures at home and also being raised the way that I did, I believed in two things. First, there is nothing a man can do that I cannot do in my hijab and in my pleated skirts. And second, men and women in this world, we are here not to compete with one another, but to collaborate and also uplift each other. So I became a content creator. And the reason for this is because I genuinely believe that us women, we need role models who look like us so that we believe that we can manifest our goals. So I started recording my entire life experience, starting from the application process, and then the day I got accepted, the day I got rejected by my scholarship, the day I left to Harvard and stayed there for a whole month with my dad, the day I was doing my exams, my graduation, everything. And through all of this, my parents and my husband has been a constant support. The idea of me showcasing this is to show a realistic glimpse of my life as a student and hope for two things. First, so I can help all my sisters here today to break down that mental barriers that you may have concerning your dream. But also to show to all my brothers out here today that your support can be extremely valuable to those of us who need it, the way that my husband and father has been extremely supportive of my career. Now, I'm not the best of judge to say whether or not I have achieved these goals, but what I can show you is this. This is a video where I vlogged a week of my life titled Life as a Hijabi in Harvard, and it has almost 2 million views on YouTube. Now, the statistics of the viewers' demography shows that the top audience are from these countries. We see Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Turkey, many more. Now, I will let you make an educated guess as to why you may think viewers from these countries are interested with the video. But as we have seen earlier, when something gains a lot of attention, it's not always for the better. Sometimes you get good attention, sometimes you get bad attention. So, let's see what the comment section says this time. But of course, this is not enough. The reality is, I can post as many videos as I want and it still won't make a difference. Like I've mentioned earlier, the barriers isn't just yourself. There's also family-related barriers, organization-related barriers, and that really prevents us from pursuing our goals. Now, unfortunately, we're not Thanos, so we can't just snap our fingers and have all our problems solved in a second. But I think we have something that's better than Thanos that he didn't have, which is empathy. This humanity that we have that empowers us to evoke empathy from others and urge us to show empathy to others, which is really the core foundation for equality in this society. Now let me explain how empathy is actually a valuable super strength. Empathy is the ability to share our feelings with others. Through empathy, we as humankind are connected because we develop concern over others and we feel the need to bring justice to them. One example is how the world today have come together to rally for a free Palestine. We don't know a single person in Gaza, and yet we feel the strong compassion to help, if only through sharing on social media or going down on protests. Without empathy, a regular person will not feel compassion for something else or someone else, and therefore they will not be inclined to help bring justice to them. What we see then is discrimination or, at worst, human rights violation. So empathy is the key to empowerment. My parents empathize with the many Indonesian women out there who are not able to pursue their goals. So they made sure to provide me, a young girl raised in Indonesia, with all that they can to make sure I would get to this point today. However, empathy is not always given readily. One question that I like to get from all my precious people is this: how do you make your parents to support your dream to study abroad? Because my parents aren't very supportive with the idea. And when I get this question, my answer is always the same. Understand where your parents are coming from, and then help your parents understand why your dreams matter to you. Parents will worry. It's in their nature, especially when they're not super familiar with what life looks like as a student living abroad. So empathize with them and find out exactly what it is that's holding them back. If it's about financial concern, then your responsibility is to find as many financial aid and scholarship as possible. And if it's about the environment, then what you can do is to find communities and student organizations that can be your home away from home. So empathize with your parents, seek the answers that they're worried about, and then try to meet them in the middle by telling them exactly what you want and evoke their empathy to your aspirations. It might not result in what you want, but I guarantee you that you will come to an agreement that you can live with, because you have now understood the needs and wants of one another and done your best to meet those needs. So that is your power, the ability to recognize how others feel or think, which makes us feel with one another and act to empower one another. You have used empathy today to thoughtfully listen to this talk. And I have used empathy to make sure that I will be using my time here as effectively as possible to respect your time. The next step now is for all of us to continue to tap into the empathy and ask ourselves the following question: how can I use my role and my privilege to empower others around us? And if it's not within my capacity to empower others, then how can I, at the very least, show concern and feel for each other so that I don't become harmful for those around us? Now for me, I will continue to unapologetically share to the internet what an Indonesian woman is capable of. I will continue to share bits and pieces from my time here today online so that I can show to people that this is how I'm trying to empower others through the limited measures and channels that I have. Now, what you're going to do is going to be something different. But just know that by continuing to ask these questions for yourself, what you can do is to create this ripple effect, not unlike the one that has brought me to this point today. Your empathy and your action of today will look like an empowered person of tomorrow. And they will forever be grateful to you, the same way that I will forever be grateful to my parents for all that I am today.